Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to World Breastfeeding Week. Welcome to this Facebook Live. And today we're going to be talking all about breastfeeding. My name is Lisa Bailey, and I'm the Communications Coordinator at the PAHO Sub-Regional Office. And I'm happy that you could join us today here on the PAHO Caribbean Facebook page, because we're talking about a topic that I hope you're very interested to learn more about. It's about World Breastfeeding Week. And this year, the theme is Support Breastfeeding for a Healthier Planet. It was selected by the World Alliance for Breastfeeding, or WABA, and the theme focuses on the impact of infant feeding on the environment. Yes, there is a link between breastfeeding and climate change, and the imperative or the objective is to protect, promote, and support breastfeeding for the health of the planet and also us, the people living on here on the planet. So we do have a great panel lined up for you. Of course, you'll be able to ask your questions in the chat box, and you will get those questions to our panel. And we will also have remarks by Dr. Erica Wheeler. And let me tell you who we have here for you today. So we have Alison Bernard. She's from the Breastfeeding and Child Nutrition Foundation in Barbados. We have Minouche Lopez. She's from the Department of Public Health and also a member of the foundation of Pro Luci Mama in Aruba. And we have Rosemary Anatol, Breastfeeding Association of Trinidad and Tobago. And as I told you, we have, because this was mainly coordinated by the Trinidad and Tobago office, and we have Janelle Charles as well, Breastfeeding Support Network of Antigua and Barbuda. And they are here. They're going to be answering your questions, and we'll be discussing breastfeeding here today. Now, we know there's a lot of evidence that breastfeeding contributes to a healthier, better educated, more equitable, and now you know, a more environmentally friendly world as well. But we also have lots of breast milk substitutes on the market, and they are very widely available and well marketed. So how do we balance the two, and how do we help mamas to make the right decision? I'm gonna ask Dr. Wheeler now to bring the opening remarks, and after that we'll get into the discussion. Dr. Wheeler.
Good afternoon, Lisa. Thank you very much for asking me to open this really important discussion. As Lisa just said, we are celebrating World Breastfeeding Week with the theme Support Breastfeeding for a Healthier Planet. And we actually started this discussion yesterday in Trinidad and Tobago with colleagues online. I hope many of the colleagues who were here yesterday are also online today. And we are doing this, yes, as a joint exercise, now Trinidad and Tobago, the sub-regional office, and of course, our dear colleagues in Washington, D.C. So I really do have to welcome you, not just on my behalf, but also on behalf of our director, Dr. Carissa Etienne, and our director general, Dr. Gebreyesus in Geneva. And this is a really critical discussion. Very often, you know, we think of breastfeeding, but we don't really connect it with climate change and a healthier planet. And this is really critical, as Lisa said, when we're talking about breast milk substitutes. What does it mean to us as women, to men, to whoever is on board for this discussion? Because I am hoping that we have people not just from Trinidad and Tobago, not just the region, but all over the world. If we are lucky, we will be getting people from all over the world, because this is an issue that touches every single person on the planet. So my job is really easy. It's to welcome you as the PAHO WHO rep and to say how important this session is. And really, I hope you have wonderful conversations, opening this space that normally we wouldn't really talk to people from all over the world or all over the region. But this kind of event offers us that opportunity to open this space so all of us can talk to each other on something on which we all feel very passionate about. So have a great discussion. I'm looking forward to the hearing you know, some of the discussions. I know that the link will be placed on our, I believe it's on our Trinidad and Tobago website, so it will be available to anyone, anywhere in the world who's listening. Tell your friends, tell your family if you've missed it, check out the recording. So thank you very much, Lisa.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wheeler. And we hope you'll stay around, and if you want, join in the discussion as well. So as I told you, we do have a big panel here, 4 ladies who are some pediatricians, some general practicing physicians, and we also have persons who are trained in lactation. Dr. Alison Bernard, who I have interviewed many times. She's a pediatrician and practicing physician for over 20 years. She recently completed her master's in public health and is the president of the Breastfeeding and Child Nutrition Foundation in Barbados, a young-ish kind of charity registered in 2015. We also have Mrs. Ninush Lopez, and after the birth of her daughter, she became fascinated with breastfeeding, and there was very little, as she's saying, about it happening at the time in Aruba. And she became one of the founders of the Pro Lichi Mama Aruba Foundation and has been an active board member ever since. We also have Dr. Janelle Charles Williams, also another breastfeeding advocate. She administers a Facebook page called Breastfeeding Support Network, BSN, where they practices are promoted around breastfeeding and giving moms support. And then we also have Rosemary Anatol. She served as the Executive Officer for Breastfeeding Association of Trinidad and Tobago for 20 years and is currently serving as an advisor. Ms. Anatol is also a lactation specialist and an international board certified lactation consultant. So as you can see, we have a very well researched and they know all about breastfeeding and lactation. And you know what? A lot of us are moms as well, including myself. So we are very equipped to talk to you today and share experiences. So I'm going to start with Alison because I've picked on her before and she knows what it's like to be interviewed by me. Alison, maybe you can start us off by telling us about the benefits of breastfeeding. We know it can go beyond bonding and nutrients. So tell us about some of the benefits of breastfeeding.
Sure. Thank you, Lisa, for that lovely introduction. Good afternoon, mummies. Good afternoon, breastfeeding support group members. Good afternoon, other CSOs who are as dedicated as we are to early childhood nutrition. So I talk to mums a lot about the benefits of breastfeeding. We know the importance of breastfeeding as it plays a part in the optimal growth, development, and health of children. We know about the bonding that is as a result of breastfeeding, that deep bond that some mothers actually think is sometimes a little bit too deep with breastfeeding. I don't think so. But we also know that breastfeeding has other significant benefits. Babies who are breastfed are smarter. They have less acute childhood infections like ear infections and gastroenteritis. They have less chronic illness like heart disease, diabetes, childhood obesity. Breastfeeding protects against childhood obesity. Mothers are protected. They have less breast cancer and ovarian cancer, less postpartum hemorrhage, and they have less postnatal depression. So we can see from the information I just gave that, breastfeeding impacts significantly maternal and child health. So especially at this time, this is really relevant, especially COVID-19 times when, maternal mental health is obviously just as important as the population mental health, where everybody is suffering from serious mental health issues as a result of lockdowns, job losses. Breastfeeding, it can be really important here for mothers, who are breastfeeding. And we also have the fact that breastfeeding reduces the risk of respiratory infection. So that World Health Organization and the Centers for Disease Control, PAHO, everyone is encouraging mothers to breastfeed, in earnest, because what they're saying is the risk of transmission is deemed low compared to the huge benefits that you get from breastfeeding. So mummies, breastfeed away. Do your hand hygiene, do your respiratory hygiene, wear your mask, but breastfeed, breastfeed, breastfeed. Even if you have to go to the hospital, take baby with you and breastfeed away if that's possible. And otherwise, pump your milk off and give baby your breast milk. So I spoke to the people at PAHO in the last session that we had, and I was saying, but I wanted to kind of widen it a little bit. There are wider impacts of breastfeeding that people, is not often discussed in breastfeeding education and information. And they align very well with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So if we're talking about what the theme of World Breastfeeding Week this year, supporting breastfeeding for a healthier planet, that really discusses the role of manufacturing, producing, and transporting formula. And the fact that the carbon emissions associated with that they think is equivalent to having about 50 to 70,000 cars on the road each year. and that
I have to admit that was surprising to me. I mean,
huge.
I've never saw that as a benefit for breastfeeding.
Never even considered equating formula production with the amount of cars and the exhaust fume that comes off of cars on a yearly basis. But that's what they're saying. And they also say, Lisa, that the amount of water that you need to use to produce formula is about, I think they said, almost 5,000 liters for every kilo of powdered cow's milk that you produce. I mean, that's a lot of water usage, you know. So in contrast, you know, breastfeeding, renewable, sustainable, energy efficient resource, there's no waste, you know, and so it's therefore safer for the environment compared with one, hands down.
But can I ask though, do we think, and this is for anyone, Minouche, maybe you can jump in here. Do you think moms know about all of these benefits, or do they focus more on what they don't like about it?
I personally think that moms, they don't know. I will tell you why I think so, because I presented at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital yesterday to a whole bunch of moms in antenatal clinic and on the ward. And when I mentioned this, they just looked at me agog, like, you know, they had no one kind of thinks breastfeeding and climate change. So I think what we're doing here today is so huge. It's really important that they know, you know. So
Minouche, you're saying something? You have to unmute. That's okay.
No, what I wanted to say is that breastfeeding to everybody, it looks like it's something logical to do. But no one realized that it's a natural thing, but not automatically it goes right. So, and that's where the panic comes in, and it doesn't go smooth. You always have bumps in the road. And that's the fascinating part. It doesn't matter if you do breastfeeding for a few weeks or a few months or a few years. Every stage has different questions and different answers. And that's what I love right now, comparing to 20 years ago when I became a mom. And that's also the reason why I became an IBCLC myself, because when you learn about breastfeeding, the more you learn, the more you want to know. And the more you know, the more you realize that there is so much more to learn. So I always say to my mommies, don't give up from the start. And nowadays we have support groups, we have Facebook, social media. So there is no reason anymore to say, I didn't know, because there are always ways to find answers. And also because of COVID, we realized that mothers are much more involved as they are at home and they were locked up and they couldn't go anywhere. So what better than to make use of the time to learn more about breastfeeding and to make it happen and to help each other and encourage each other. And I also talked about the topic of this year of saving the planet, but just realize Aruba is a very small island. And I believe many of us that are living on an island, and we were afraid, is the formula coming to Aruba or not? So not only that in mind, but also breastfeeding is best, and not normally it's best and you have all the benefits, but it was now much more than just good. No, it being the difference between having also antibodies when mom becomes positive, realizing that you won't be separated from the body once you get positive tested, or someone else in the family. So the role changed completely. Normally being interested in breastfeeding, and now with the COVID, it's much more. So I think that at the end of all of this, the formula industry will get the effect, because more and more moms, I think this year, proved that they're breastfeeding and also wanted to continue breastfeeding, because once you overcome certain battles and struggling in breastfeeding, it gets easier on the long run. And so you get 6 months without realizing you're exclusively breastfeeding, and you were thinking 6 weeks, 3 months, and then you're 6 months, and why not stopping? I remember they told me, because I thought I'm gonna give 1 year, and then they said, why not 1 year and a week? Why not 1 year and a month? And I couldn't answer because I liked it, I loved it, and my baby did. So why did I want to stop at 1 year? Anyway, at the end, I tandemed, I got my other child, and both got the breastfeeding simultaneously. And I continued to almost 5 years and 3.2 years. So if I can do it, I always say to my moms, just do it. And being a lactation consultant myself now, I see that more and more moms are long feedsters, and long feedsters, they don't realize, they know, and the starters, they don't realize how much extra fun it is to be a long feedster, because there's so much more to learn and so much more to know about it. So I think COVID is helping all of you mommies to continue doing what you're doing great at this point.
Thank you so much, Manus, for sharing that. I want to bring in Rosemary here because you kind of touched on it. There are myths associated that sometimes, get people confused and they think they can't do it because whatever. So Rosemary, maybe you can tell us about some of the myths that you have heard, and obviously they're myths. So tell us what's the truth out there.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. Certainly representing an organization that's 43 years old, it's really lovely to be with some of the members of some of the newer organizations within the Caribbean. I think the challenge with myths is that they really spread information that is not correct, but they're spread within communities and within families. And because they are repeated so often, those things are believed. And sometimes the other information that we give, maybe through the health sector, about breastfeeding, when mommy goes home and she's with her mother and her granny and her auntie and members of the community, that information, those myths are passed on as if they're fact. Of course, there's different myths all over the world. Every country has their own myths. There's probably different ones even within the region. So I would just focus on some of the common things, some of the misinformation that is passed on. And I think that many moms who are listening to us will either have been told these things or may even have passed on that information. One of the things that we hear so often is that there are many women who cannot produce enough milk. And so when we talk about breastfeeding, people will say, oh yes, I wanted to breastfeed, but I couldn't produce enough. And so I think we have to reinforce that the vast majority of mothers can breastfeed. They can produce enough milk. In fact, they can usually produce more milk than is needed for their baby. That's why moms of twins and multiples can produce milk. But I think we have to stress how breastfeeding works. The fact that the baby needs to be well latched, that the mother needs to be breastfeeding frequently, because breastfeeding works on supply and demand. The more the mother feeds, the more her milk she will produce. So I think that is a message that we have to get over, because when our moms go home from hospital, in that first couple of weeks, it is so critical. When they often give up, it's because often they believe they don't have enough milk. And that is when support is needed, that help from people who can really show them how to latch the baby and what to do. So I think that's an important one. There's another one, that breastfeeding hurts, that breastfeeding is painful. And many people have this message passed on by others that breastfeeding is going to hurt. Many moms tell us, I really want to breastfeed, so I'm going to grit my teeth and put up with the pain because I want to breastfeed. But breastfeeding is not supposed to be painful. Now, there may be a little discomfort in the first few days, but as the baby starts to feed, it should not be painful. Again, the most common cause of nipple pain, breast pain, is that the baby is not well latched. So again, if a mom is having any kind of pain, she needs to seek help, because breastfeeding should not be painful. We have a lovely one, of course, in this region about babies needing water, because we all live in a hot climate. We get thirsty and we want to drink water. So granny and auntie and everyone will be telling mommies, you need to give the baby water. We have to get that message over, that mothers produce enough water in their breast milk. And the research tells us when you live in a hot climate, you produce even more water in your breast milk than someone who lives in a colder climate. So the babies don't need water. Now, of course, one that has gone on for a long time is that you need to drink milk to make milk. And we've been told that by many, many people. I've had mothers tell me they don't like milk, but they're forcing themselves to drink milk to make milk. I usually tell moms, have you ever seen a cow drinking milk? And they produce lots of milk. You don't have to drink milk to produce milk. Now, there's another one that's very common, that small breasts can't produce enough milk. And we know that it doesn't matter whether your breasts are small, whether your breasts are large, whatever kind of breast a mother has, that mother will be able to produce enough breast milk. And of course, when we're talking about breasts, we come to that challenge of the shape and the size, and people say, my breasts are going to sag. So that is one that we also have to talk about, because we know that it isn't breastfeeding that is going to have that kind of effect on your breast. Breast may change slightly due to pregnancy, but breastfeeding really does not have a negative effect on your breast. And I think it's worth mentioning that actually breastfeeding helps to protect your breast, because we know that breastfeeding reduces the risk of breast cancer. So there's a tremendous benefit by breastfeeding. There's one.
Rosemary, I think some of your myths have kind of touched on, in a sense, the challenges. Certainly, if I look back to my time breastfeeding, I can definitely relate to my mother giving my son water because he has to get water. I remember my mom, his grandmom, saying, you know, he's a big boy. He needs more than breast milk. So these are challenges, and I want to hear from the others as well. What are you hearing from the moms about the challenges? And for those of you watching as well, we want to hear from you. We want to know, did you get information like this when you had your child? Did you get this information in the centers that you happen to be in? Anyone can jump in here. What are some of these challenges, and how can we help moms combat what they're dealing with?
If I can jump in really quickly, just to say that when I was at the hospital yesterday, one of the mums who I was speaking to, she actually turned to, after I finished, talking, she turned to the sister on the ward and said to her, I really think we need more information like this, because she's in hospital and she's watching other mothers really distressed, frustrated. They're helped, for a very short period of time with the breastfeeding, supporting with the breastfeeding, but then they go back, they leave that, when the midwife leaves, they go back to being frustrated again. And what she says, she hears them saying is, I can't wait to leave hospital so I can start formula. I mean, that is just devastating to me, because they haven't even left hospital yet, and already they're talking about formula. So I think it's the support. I mean, as much as they, in hospital, they try to get support. I mean, Barbados QEH is a baby-friendly hospital. I think that more support is required, and I think that mothers need to be informed better about what to expect. A lot of them don't even know that that breastfeeding can be hard, that it can be quite hard.
That's true.
I think too.
Janelle, I think Janelle wanted to say something. We haven't heard from you yet. Go ahead, Janelle.
I think too, one of the myths, or one of the concerns of mothers is the attachment that results as a result of breastfeeding, and some moms are uncomfortable with that, and they believe that they don't have that individual level of ability to go out and do what they have to do. But I have also met moms who say to me, it comes as a result of planning. And so if you are expressing milk early enough, then you can have enough milk there so that when you go out, that grandma or daddy or whomever can either spoon feed or cup feed the baby with that breast milk that you would have expressed. So I think that's one of the concerns of mom, the attachment that comes as a result of breastfeeding, exclusively breastfeeding, and getting ready to return to work. Many moms say way in advance of returning to work, they introduce formula because they are concerned that babies might starve to death because they are not there, and baby will only want to have breast milk or to breastfeed. And so I hear mommies saying that, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months before returning to work, they are introducing formula. And that does not have to be the case, because We know that you can speak to your supervisor and express your milk at work. We know you can start storing milk in the freezer, in the refrigerator, and whomever is taking care of baby when you return to work can administer the breast milk. So I think sometimes we put up some defenses to say, I'm not doing this. But once you've made up your mind and you determine this is something that you will do, planning, you can move forward and achieve breastfeeding success, to exclusively breastfeed your baby, and even to maintain breastfeeding 2 years and beyond.
Well, we have comments already coming in. We have someone saying when they were in Trinidad and Tobago, they had great support. They were really looking to give up, but they were very well encouraged. So thank you, Ms. Zambrana, for that. We have another comment saying, no, I didn't get the help I needed. And this person just completed their BSc in nutrition and dietetics and now know better, but they did not get that information. She says she's almost 8 months exclusively breastfeeding. Congratulations to you on that. Yay, a big yay from everyone. Now, there's obviously a need for more information, but then for moms who have persevered and can do it, there's a need then for us to talk about it, right? For policy, for advocacy. Anyone can take this one. How can we create better policies to support our moms?
Well, what we did in Aruba is that we had a group with all partners working with moms, and we made an Aruban policy especially for breastfeeding. So we had every partner connected in trying to do the best. So once a mom goes home, then the other party will take over. And then you have the Breastfeeding Foundation and all the midwives and the gynecologists and the doctors, they all know about it. So we had to be on the same level. And I think every country should go try to work that way. And we're in this for 20 years and still we have a lot to work on because people come and go. So when you get a new tech of people working in the field, then they also need schooling and being on the same page. So it is a challenge and it will stay a challenge. But if we, the workers in the field, work together, then we can help moms the best way. And you were talking about meats just now. What I heard every single day is why they think that the breast is like a crane and you open it and then the milk come out. And then I say, no, it doesn't work like that. So I stress, I try them to learn about breastfeeding in the 9 months that are pregnant. They have 9 months to read about breastfeeding. And then after that, the skin to skin. That's a very powerful tool. And relax with the baby. And the baby, the only distance the baby can see is the distance from your face to the breast. So if you have the baby skin to skin, it will see the colors of the areola. And if it's licking, if it's just hearing your heartbeat, if it smells you and you feel the warmth, that's enough. Your hormones will work. And by doing that, I think it will help mommies to be more confident in continuing and know that they have a reserve for 24 to 48 hours. And I also work on, do you know how large the stomach is? And I show them. And then they're like a cherry? Yes. And they say, and you want to put 2 ounces of milk in that tummy? I mean, how are you planning to do that? It takes, for the first time that the baby latched on, it's only 2 milliliter, which is not even a little teaspoon. And that it has to work for like 50 minutes. It's an all-you-can-eat buffet, right? So sometimes they eat a little bit, sometimes they eat a lot. So relax and enjoy the journey. But the more that they feel connected and follow the baby, don't expect the baby from following you, because that will never happen. Even if the kid is 18 years old, it won't happen. So follow the baby and relax. And that helps a little bit. And also with the help of all us professionals. And let's make it happen.
Yeah. Rosemary, you had your mic on. You wanted to say something as well?
I just wanted to add something on policies. I think the important thing with policies is that they have to be implemented. We've been working on policies for a long time in Trinidad and Tobago, together with the Ministry of Health, of course. And I think what happens sometimes is that the policies are there, but we have different hospitals, different members in the health sector. As was being said, people change, staff change. And sometimes different things are not implemented as they should be. And I think the important thing is that we don't just want the members of the health sector to know about the policies. We need our mothers and our fathers to be aware of what those policies are, so that maybe when they go into hospital, they need to know, for instance, that they should get skin to skin as soon as the baby is born, and that the baby should stay with them in skin to skin for the first hour. It's no good having that as a policy and then the mother doesn't know about it. So I think we have to empower our mothers as well and our fathers so that they know what they can demand, what they can expect, and also to ensure that we're all speaking with the same voice. We don't just sit back and say, we have breastfeeding policies. We have to make sure that they're implemented.
I agree with you, Rosemary, and I definitely agree that professional and social support is very critical in terms of achieving breastfeeding success. And I would also say to moms when they are in the maternity unit to practice breastfeeding, because the more you practice, the easier it becomes. And also, while you are in the hospital practicing, you should ask, as you said, Rosemary, advocate on your behalf and your baby's behalf, and ask the nurse on the maternity ward to give you feedback on whether you're doing it correctly, whether you're achieving a deep latcher or a shallow latch, whether your posture is good, whether you're holding baby correctly. So practice, take advantage of those 2 days or those 24 hours that you are on the maternity ward and get that feedback, because the more confident you are, the more you have somebody saying, yes, you're doing good. Yes, you got that one right. The more it is that when you go home that you will continue to breastfeed and you will feel confident about what you're doing. And also to reach out, as you said, there are a lot of social support out there. And in this age of the World Wide Web, there are lots of resources there. And I know that moms like to go onto the web and research and Google and what have you. I would caution to use sites that are reputable, that are evidence-based in the information that they share. You have WHO, UNICEF, you have as well as LACHE, you have CDC, and you have the American Academy of Pediatrics. I also have a Facebook page called Breastfeeding Support Network that provides that social support, that peer support, that you can ask questions and have feedback. So it's very important for persons to draw in on resources, credible resources, and not to hesitate to ask for help. Go to your community clinics. Yes. Ask your nurse, am I doing it right? Ask for information. Don't become frustrated. Introduce formula and then ask the question, because of course baby too becomes comfortable with using the bottle and the formula. And
that actually is one of the questions that we have right now, because someone is asking, Angela is asking, what do you do as a mother when a baby does not want to take expressed breast milk? So you pump it off, but the baby doesn't want to take it after you pumped it off. I mean, these are things that happen when you have to go back to work. So what I'm hearing you guys say is policy has to be implemented, but then there are levels of policy. So national policy, but then also workplace policy. Let's talk about that.
We have a lot.
I was going to mention, so I was
let Manu, go ahead. I was going to let Manoush go first because I saw her on. Okay. Go ahead, Manoush.
Okay.
Me? Okay. No, in Aruba, we have a law that protects mommies so they can combine working with breastfeeding. Like nowadays, 70% of all mothers work. So you cannot stay 8 hours without getting the milk out. So here, 25% of the working hours of a mom, she gets paid, she can dedicate to breastfeeding. Either she goes to the baby comes to work, or she pumps. And if she decides to pump, then the employer needs to provide a space where she can pump. Well, this is something that works very well. But now what we see in the lockdown, we saw that mommies continue breastfeeding, and now they go back to work, and now we have completely different ball games, because now there are like experienced mothers breastfeeding and they want to combine it. But now we see that because of the situation, Aruba is dependent 90% of our income of tourism, and we were with zero tourism. So for the last 3.5 months, 3.5 months, it affected every single household. Many persons lost their job. There was lack of income, and now that they go back to work, once it opened up in July 1st, we see that mothers work only 5 hours a day instead of 8 hours. And the employers, they don't want to keep breastfeeding mothers anymore. If they have to choose between who they're gonna let go, it will be the mothers. So I try to be more creative now and flexible. And I talk to the mothers and say, if you want to go back to work, please remember that if they go bankrupt, you're without a job. So try to use only the hours that you need to breastfeed and work. And with us is a law, but maybe you can use it in your country as a policy. And for instance, ask your boss, is it okay for me to pump? If you have a double electric pump, it's only 15, 20 minutes. Go for it. Yeah. Or try and to talk to him and say, can I have flexible work hours? Instead of working till 4:30, work till 5 and have extra time to pump. Or ask him and tell him, did you know that every dollar you invest, you get $3 back? Because I am more motivated. I will not call in sick if my baby goes sick. I don't mind taking work home. I am flexible. So go the extra mile. You will go the extra mile.
And you won't know if you don't ask, right? Alison, you wanted to add something as well?
And even I did succeed 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So again,
so it can happen.
But
Alison, you wanted to give the experience from Barbados?
I was just going to say that the policies that we need to implement need to be quite holistic. So it needs to start along the continuum. So we have the breastfeeding, the baby-friendly hospital initiative in the hospital, where they the policy says you need to get skin-to-skin contact, and that everybody is on board with providing you with the support that you need while you're in hospital. Only use formula if medically indicated. And then when you leave hospital, for example, you should be provided with information about where you get that support. And then, for mothers who are going back to work, as Manoush said, there has to be breastfeeding workplace policy, because I don't know if your countries are like us, where, extending maternity leave. I saw that someone mentioned that in the chat. I mean, that's the ideal, right? And introducing paternity leave, that's the ideal. But that's not really in the budget right now. We're all in an economic crunch. So, so the other thing is then have well-designed breastfeeding workplace policy. And I think it needs to be law. Personally, I think just like the international code, it is less effective if it is not made, if it's not fully enacted in law. So I think that's where we need to go with policy in Barbados and certainly the region.
And if I could just add, Lisa, I think all of this discussion is reinforcing that we really need a breastfeeding supportive environment, because if we want to encourage our mothers to breastfeed, there are so many different things. It has to be an enabling environment. Of course, we're talking about antenatally, we're talking about BFHI, mother-friendly workplaces. And yes, I agree, we need to have legislation for the code, but we need everyone to understand the importance of breastfeeding, whether it's in the education system for our children, so that they grow up seeing people breastfeeding and understanding this is a normal, natural way to breastfeed. We need the media to be on board. We need everyone to be talking about breastfeeding, because support is so important. The fathers, the mothers, the communities. That's what I think these kind of sessions are helping, so that we can try throughout the region maybe to really develop a breastfeeding supportive environment.
I think
very true.
Highlighting the use of testimonies of mommies who've been successful at exclusive breastfeeding, at extended breastfeeding, would also help other moms realize that they have the power, they have the ability to boldly move and exclusively breastfeed their babies, but we need to see more stories of those successes and more peer support. Because by identifying your strategies, what worked for you, what didn't work for you, others can lead into that and take from it some strategies as well as to how to move forward. Like we indicated, there's some challenges, there's some highs, there's some lows. If I am aware of what sort of conversation a mom had with her supervisor to indicate that she wants to express her milk while at work, it also empowers me. I know there's some moms that feel intimidated to have that level of conversation with the supervisor, but if you see another mom doing it, a mom post whether on social media how she approached it, then you too gather the courage to have that conversation and to believe that you should have that right to ask. So I think we need a lot of those success stories highlighted. And I think though that we're doing a lot nonetheless. And I recognize even in Antigua and Barbuda that the advertisements on formula have started in recent time. And I took note of that and I said, it seems to suggest something that breastfeeding is gaining some additional momentum, and they feel the need to indicate, hey, don't forget us, there's formula out there, you know.
Right.
They're running scared. They're running scared.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to give you guys just a few minutes to maybe share some of the resources that your associations have. Where can people go to get more information to become long feeders? And I wish I had known about that back then. Maybe I would have tried a little harder. Where can people go to get more information as we wrap up? And we have support in the chats. People are saying, make the code law in the Caribbean.
Yes.
People go for more information.
In terms of resources, I think the social media, those chat rooms are very powerful because they carry the messages of moms in terms of their testimonies. And especially I find the photographs are very powerful. Photographs of moms breastfeeding, of tandem breastfeeding. These are very, very, very powerful messages. So social media is definitely a great resource. I posted a question on my page, Breastfeeding Support Network, and I asked moms, how has breastfeeding changed, or what is the impact of COVID-19 on breastfeeding? And interestingly, most of them said it has caused me to extend breastfeeding, that I have put weaning my baby on hold. It's certainly a recognition of the powerful immune building capacity of breastfeeding. And it's certainly also in recognition of the pictures that you see on those social media forums of mommies breastfeeding, of some fabulous pictures of Black women, of white women breastfeeding and pushing and encouraging others, sharing their challenges and sharing the successes. So I think these are some powerful resources. And of course, your clinics, your community clinic, call, go, visit, ask a question. The nurses there are many nurses that are willing to help. And when moms talk to me about their breastfeeding success, they always said, I had a breastfeeding champion. Sometimes it's a nurse or it's a nutritionist, but once you have that person, once you've been able to identify that person that's a champion for breastfeeding and you have them in your corner, I think it's an invaluable resource of having a personal sort of resource encouraging you and somebody you can share the challenges with and somebody who can push you and to tell you, make suggestions, things you can try, and somebody that's just there to exchange information and to listen to some of the challenges that you have. But of course, if you don't have that personal champion in your corner, use your community clinics, your maternity ward, and social media to get information and support.
Okay,
I agree with you. But it's not only reaching out. What I see is that because of the support groups, you see that mothers reach out to each other to help each other, to support each other. And also the mentally part. I see moms are dealing with domestic violence. They are dealing with miscarriage. They're stressed out financially. And what happened in my groups, I mean, we're there for breastfeeding, but suddenly they gave each other a fight and exchange food, exchange Pampers, clothes, toys. And then suddenly some mothers became fanatic and pumping extra milk because they were at home anyway, and trying to share milk. So then I had myself, instead of having an official milk bank, I had to arrange that mothers were tested and become official donor moms. So now I mix and match mothers with donors to get milk, because they all care for each other. They're all in the same boat. They're sharing breastfeeding. And it's something that if you never breastfed, or if you're not in that world, you don't understand. So I see now that mothers are more bonding and helping each other. And I think that also is one of the reasons why mother will breastfeed longer in the future. But it's, I think COVID did a lot of negative things, but also some positive things if you see it related to breastfeeding.
Okay, good. And Rosemary, what is the name of your site? Do you have a website or anything that people can check out if they want more information from your association?
Yes, we are on Facebook, the Breastfeeding Association of Trinidad and Tobago. We also have the website breastfeedingtt.com, but we also have centers where mothers can come in if they need hands-on support. We have telephone contact, we have WhatsApp, we have ways of speaking through Skype. We will be doing more online meetings now, because we do have regular support groups where mothers come in and share. And we have trained, in Trinidad and Tobago, we have trained breastfeeding counselors throughout the country, and that includes in Tobago. And we have counselors with different areas of expertise we can put mothers in touch with. So it is really for a mother to reach out. She can private message us on Facebook, and we will offer her counseling through that. We have breastfeeding literature as well, which mothers can access. So we always encourage mothers, particularly in those very early days. I think the first week, the first 2 weeks is so critical, and mothers can get hands-on help from us. If they need help with latch or anything else, we will help them. We make hospital visits, and we also make visits to mothers at home if that is needed. So we have a range of ways that we support our mothers. They just need to reach out with us. It's been a little more difficult.
And that's the thing.
COVID.
And that's the thing, because you just have to reach out. And the good thing about social media is, even if they may not be an association in your country, you can reach out to the Trinidad Association. They'll answer you. They're not going to say, "Are you in Trinidad?" Alison, you want to tell us about your platforms, and then we're going to have to wrap up.
Yes, of course. So we are the Breastfeeding and Child Nutrition Foundation, and we have a Facebook page, and we have Instagram. So you can find us through those two mediums. We have a support group that's online now, and we run that, monthly right now, and probably start to do that maybe bi-weekly. And so I think there are lots of ways. We also have a hotline number that you can reach out to us on as well. Can I just say one last thing, which is that I agree totally with support, but I also think if this might be a little bit controversial, but if mothers actually started to, if there was a value placed on the unpaid work of mothers, including breastfeeding, if an economist would say that actually the amount of time, money that was placed on the work that you do, perhaps it would be easier then for mothers, fathers, and families to demand what mothers are entitled to, what they're supposed to ask for as it relates to support in breastfeeding.
Okay.
That's
Thank you. And Janelle, did you get to mention your platforms? I don't think so.
Yes, Breastfeeding Support Network. You can get us on Facebook. You can ask questions. We provide some answers. We also get some support from a nutrition expert. We highlight the successes, breastfeeding successes of moms. We encourage them. And of course, we ask questions, and that ranges from why will my breast hang from breastfeeding to how to get support from your significant other and families. So a whole range of questions. Of course, we also highlight some celebrity news in terms of births, And we just generally have fun as well, a lot of humor as well.
Yes, once ladies get together, it's always going to be some fun. I want to thank all of you so much for joining us. We have lots of support in the questions and the suggestions that have come in the chat. And I want to thank all of you for joining us. Dr. Wheeler for bringing remarks, Dr. Alison Bernard, Minouche Lopez, Rosemary Anatole, and of course, Janelle Charles. And we hope that we have been able to inform you. We hope we've been able to engage you and to give you information that you can use so that we can help others to breastfeed. It just makes sense, really, to breastfeed and to breastfeed as long as you can. We've placed the resources in the chat comments. So if you're looking for any of those pages or any resources to help you, that information is there for you as well. So all I can say right now is thank you so much for joining us. And we hope that you'll continue to follow this page for more information on lots of topics related to healthcare in the Caribbean. Thank you so much for joining us and have a great evening. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.